Well, hello, hello. Good afternoon, evening, everybody. Afternoon for some of you. raftechnicantica.com. I'm trying a new device, so please bear with me. I have no idea how the sound is gonna be. I have no idea how I'm gonna be. It's been a long day, in a long week, of a long month, in a long year, of a long life. Okay, title of this video: The rubber band is your friend. Might sound a bit controversial, but actually I think I discovered this back in the day. It's like a long time ago. So I was born in in the last century, and the thing is that I have found that this way of explaining stuff works for some people. So it might work for some of you. So rubber bands. Now, first of all, singing is flexible by nature. Why? Because I believe that the tissue, right, in general, is kind of flexible. Yeah, your bone structure, it's rigid, obviously, but what we're talking about air and synchronizing, as Laudi Volpi used to say, synchronizing the phonatory apparatus with the breathing apparatus, and thus everything is supple, everything is flexible, everything stretches. So we don't want fixed positions in singing. And that might sound controversial, because when you talk about the affondo technique, and affondare means to actually deepen or lower, or low larynx and all that jazz, people go bananas with this, and then you might find yourself in trouble. I would rather go with a less radical format or aspect and go all Corelli in this, in which he used to say that he believed in the sort of floating pharynx. So I'm going to try to demonstrate with this rubber band what goes on in your larynx as you sing up and down. So let's have some an imagination exercise. That just this thumb is your larynx, right? I've shown this in another video, but it's never a bad thing to show it again and again until you get very bored. So this is your larynx. These are your vocal folds. So your vocal folds stretch by action of the cricothyroid, and this is your larynx that tilts down. And if you want to talk about the thyroid cartilage and all that, be my guest. We don't have to complicate things. So the optimal position for singing classical music, lyric music, is with a low larynx, all right? And this is what people talk about, and they say this is the open throat and yawning and the whole shebang. Well, that's it. Just lowering or tilting the larynx. As you tilt the larynx, the vocal folds are going to stretch by action of the cricothyroid, and because of the arytenoids, the vocal folds are going to vibrate, and that is an optimal sound. On the other side of the spectrum, you're going to have your pharynx and the soft palate, that as you tilt and open and you have this sort of open throat business going on, it's going to lift, and thus creating the maximum chamber cavity to resonate. That's why I always say that when you are going all nasal and twangy, okay, and this opens, and thus the voice is free. So if we were to have, and we are all nasal here and all closed up, so this is what we want to do. Usually, second step, I'm just looking at the sun because I want to take a picture of the sunset. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I actually lost the sunset because I was recording this stupid video. Anyway, so as I was saying, larynx tilting down, the pharynx and soft palate together opening up, shooting up, and this is your free space to sing. Do you need this for every style of singing? Possibly not, because as we saw in a previous video about belting, you can sing with a high larynx, provided that you have a good microphone and some sort of effects and stuff, and that's how basically you belt. But we are talking about lyric singing today, and we're talking about the open throat business and how this is optimized. So we want the folds to vibrate freely and not to blow too much air. So one thing is subglottal pressure, and the other one is actually sending way too much air. That's what we call pushing. When you push, it's just the subglottal pressure is built up so much because the amount of air you're pushing up is too much. This balance breaks. The larynx is going to shoot backwards or raise, as you may, and the vocal folds are just gonna, they're just gonna close and open up again. That's when you crack. And that sort of crack, what happens is that you go from vibrating with the Joe Steele school would say thick folds, which is basically the entire mass of the vocal folds, into thin folds, that is what we call head voice. With a high larynx would be falsetto, sort of, with a low larynx would be when you mix it as a high A, with thick folds. All right, so this, all right, thin folds, falsetto. Okay, so a wonderful exercise that I've explained in the past, and I will never stop encouraging people to do, is to go from this sort of head voice, thin folds, whatever you want to call it, with a low larynx, head voice, to full voice. Why? Because you want to avoid pushing the sound to get those, especially top notes, because people they go mental with high notes. I have gone mental for I don't know how many years, maybe to this day. If I feel a bit awkward, I go a bit mental with high notes because, well, they're a bit more exposed. You got to stretch those folds and you got to coordinate that pressure, and you might lose it. So the exercise, I'm just gonna start straight on a G. It's basically la, ooh, thin folds, ooh, low larynx, ooh, and then thick. Okay, so go from those thin folds or head voice into your chest voice or full voice gradually. If your larynx is not tilted or low, this is gonna snap. Okay, and it's gonna go into this sort of falsetto in which your larynx shoots back, stays neutral, and you can grow that thing. So it would be like, instead of ooh, it would be ooh, and the minute you go ooh, okay, so very, 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 very important to keep that larynx low with whatever image suits you well. And again, you can take this all the way to whatever note you feel okay with. I would advise you to go as high as you can, but always with this going to this full voice and with the low larynx, because otherwise it's gonna snap. So if you go to B flat, for example, that would be a very vertical note, yeah. That's it. You just take that down, right? And the only thing is that whenever you want to go something above in the voice of a tenor, if you're a baritone, just take this one and a half tones down, and it might work for you. Maybe two, I don't know. But when you go higher than this, for a tenor, it's very, very obvious. You're gonna go very horizontal. So you're gonna have to open again. So from that verticality of the ooh, you're gonna have to go to an a or an e, never losing that verticality. So it would be something like this. So it's that thing, instead of ooh, because otherwise you're gonna kill yourself with that. Okay? That's all for today. Rubber band. Think about it. I hope it works. And if it doesn't work, Just don't watch it. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell button, whatever you want. If you don't want it, please don't watch any of my content. Don't get offended. You don't have to. It's unnecessary conflict and trauma. And if you need help, you know where to find me. Okay, have fun. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.